My fiancé forgot to hang up the call, and what I overheard, it shattered me. It was a conversation with his parents the night before our wedding, and it changed everything. I'm 26, female, and I was supposed to get married last week. But that didn't happen, because I ran away the night before. We had been together for 3 years, engaged for 6 months. We even had twin boys together, just 1 year old. The pregnancy wasn't planned. In fact, my fiancé had been completely against the idea of having kids. But I was firm. I told him I would have them, with or without his support. I even gave him an out. I told him I wouldn't ask for child support, because deep down, I knew I could do this on my own. My maternal instincts were strong, and I truly felt, that it was the right time. I was ready to be a mom. He wasn't, but when I told him I'd leave him if he kept pushing me to end the pregnancy, something changed. That's when he started to come around. From that point on, he was supportive. Through my entire pregnancy, he stepped up. And when the twins were born, both of us surprised to have 2 instead of 1, he was there, present, active, loving. I'll admit, twins would have been too much for me alone, but he stayed, and he was a good father. 6 months later, he proposed, and I said yes. It felt like that dark early chapter where he begged me to abort had never happened. He was so good, so attentive, so kind. Pregnancy had softened me too, and I forgave it all. We'd survived 3 years and a pregnancy. This was the right time. It felt real, safe, like we were finally ready. So we started planning the wedding. For months I was filled with joy. My parents adored him. He was charming, respectful, and seemed perfect. We thought we had everything until the night before the wedding. He was staying with his parents, tradition, and I was at our home with the twins. After dinner, he called me. He told me he loved me, that he couldn't wait to marry me. I cried happy tears. We had a moment. Then we said our goodbyes, and I waited for him to hang up, but he didn't. He has this habit. He sometimes forgets to tap the screen hard enough. So the call stayed on. And that's when I heard it, his father's voice. Curious, I didn't hang up. His dad had just asked if he was talking to me. My fiancé answered, yes, but his tone, it was off, distant, low, heavy, and what followed after that still replays in my mind, like a nightmare I can't wake from. His dad asked him softly, do you still feel the same way you did 2 days ago? And my fiancé, he said, yes. That single word hit me like a brick. Then his mother joined the conversation. She said it didn't matter how he felt, that he had to go through with the wedding anyway. That's when his voice changed. He flared up. He told them that he was sick of being pushed around, that he would do whatever he wanted, that they couldn't keep controlling his life like this. And then his dad said something I'll never forget. We can't force you to marry someone you don't love, but we can cut you out of the will. The choice is yours. I froze. Then came his mother's voice again, stern, cold. She said that now that he was a father, it was time to grow up, that it was already shameful that he'd had children outside of marriage, but he could still save face by marrying me. Postponing it any longer, she said, was just immature. If you were ready to make babies, she told him, then you're ready to commit, be a husband, be a man. His dad agreed. But my fiancé? He pushed back again. This isn't fair, he said. I'm being forced into a marriage I'm not ready for, just so you won't disown me. He sounded broken, angry, like a boy trapped. Then he said something I'll never unhear. No one ever asks if I'm ready for these milestones. Not her, not you. She didn't care that I wasn't ready to be a dad. You didn't care either. Now you're all trying to bully me into marrying her when I'm not ready. I just sat there, phone trembling in my hand, unable to move. He said I had forced him. His parents had forced him. That everyone had made him face things he wasn't prepared for, including fatherhood, and now, marriage. Then, I heard footsteps. He must have walked out, leaving his phone behind. His parents kept talking, calling him irresponsible, immature. That's when I finally hung up. I felt like the floor had collapsed beneath me. Everything I knew, or thought I knew, shattered. The man I was about to marry didn't even want to marry me. He was going to do it because of money, because of pressure. I sat there, numb. For minutes, maybe hours. This was the man who held me, kissed me, helped raise our boys. The same man who said he wanted a future with me. Now I realized he'd just been acting, pretending, and he was damn good at it. Once I gathered the strength to move, I packed a bag. My boys were with me, thankfully. So I got in the car and drove. No plan, no direction, just away. I checked into a small hotel just outside of town. It was late. The babies were fussy. I rocked them to sleep. Then I blocked my fiancé, his parents, everyone from his side. No explanation, no warning. I cried all night. The man I thought I'd spend forever with had been lying to me for a year. My entire relationship, a performance. Eventually, around 4 a.m., I fell asleep. The next morning, what should have been my wedding day, I didn't get dressed. I didn't check my phone. I didn't cry again. I just existed at a hotel with my babies, eating junk food, trying to stay afloat, trying to feel something other than betrayal. I had already texted everyone that the wedding was off. No explanations, just that I'd talk later. I told my friends and family not to go near him or his family. I didn't want them to speak to them or respond to them. I trusted my people, and they respected my silence. Meanwhile, the wedding venue stood ready, decorated, catered, paid for. But I didn't care. His parents had funded the whole thing. They were wealthy. This entire circus had been their idea anyway. Let them feel the consequences. Let them explain to the guests. I stayed hidden, trying to keep it together for my kids. They were the only ones I wanted around me, the only ones who didn't lie to me. After a day of disappearing, I knew I had to go back, but not to stay. I dropped the twins off at my parents' house and returned to collect my things. The house we had shared, it suddenly felt cold, heavy, and when I pulled into the driveway, there he was, my ex. He looked awful, like he hadn't slept in days. Eyes sunken, skin pale, voice trembling. He rushed toward me. "Where were you?" I was worried sick. I didn't respond. Before I could even open my mouth, he started rambling. He said he and his parents had waited at the venue for hours, that what I did was unacceptable, that I had humiliated him and his family, that I owed everyone an explanation, that this wasn't just cold feet, this was cruelty. That's when I finally spoke. I said, "I overheard your conversation with your parents that night." He froze. Confusion flashed in his eyes, then realization, and then shame. He dropped his gaze, didn't say a word. I walked past him, into the house. He didn't follow. I gathered only what I needed. I didn't even look around. Then I left. Without saying goodbye, I had nothing more to give. He did what he thought was right. Now I was doing the same. The thought of being someone's wife no longer appealed to me. All I wanted was to be a mother, a good one. That was nearly a week ago, and we haven't spoken since. At least, that's what I thought. A few hours ago, he showed up again, at my parents' house, begging to talk to me. By now, I had already told my parents everything, every word from that phone call, every moment of betrayal. They were furious, protective, and skeptical about letting him in. But I agreed to talk, one last time. I didn't let him inside. The babies had just fallen asleep, and I wasn't about to risk waking them. So we spoke outside, in the front yard, just the two of us. He looked tired, worn down, nervous. Then he spoke. He apologized, said he was sorry for everything, that he really did love me, that even though he wasn't ready to marry me, he still wanted us. He said he loved the kids, that he wanted to stay in their lives, that he wanted to work things out without his parents interfering. And I didn't know what to say. How could I trust him? How could I believe anything after hearing that call? He had lied to me for nearly a year, played a part so well, I had no idea he was pretending. Still, I told him I'd think about it, because I needed time, because I was exhausted, because this week had broken something inside me. He said he didn't want to break up. He wanted to rebuild, without pressure. But how do you rebuild something built on lies? I wanted my children to have a father in their lives. That much was true. But me? I didn't want to be in a relationship filled with doubt. I just needed space, a pause, time to breathe. I didn't owe him anything, but part of me still wanted to believe there was something worth salvaging. So I waited, and I watched, and I hoped he'd prove something. Update 1. Hey everyone. I know it's been a little while. Things have been hectic. Work, the kids, moving. It's been nonstop. But I finally have a moment to breathe and update you all. First, thank you. The amount of support I've received has been overwhelming. Messages from strangers, kind words, helpful advice. I can't say enough how much it meant. Truly, I'm so grateful. Now for the real update. I've spoken to a lawyer. I've decided to pursue full custody of my kids. And I've also made another decision. I'm not getting back with my ex. I know. Some of you might be thinking, why was that even a question? Well, emotions don't always follow logic. Some people even started sending me hateful messages, calling me a selfish mother just for considering taking him back. But those people, they didn't live through what I did. They didn't carry the love I had for him for 3 years. They didn't have his children. I'm not just a mother. I'm also human. And yes, it had only been a week since that phone call. Of course, I hadn't moved on instantly. I was shattered, confused. I'd loved him deeply. So, yes, part of me did consider reconciliation. But now I see things clearly. No matter how much pain I'm in, I have to protect myself. And more importantly, my boys. So I won't go back. I won't risk putting myself or my kids through more chaos. The betrayal, the lies, the manipulation, I'm done. And as for the custody, I knew I needed legal backing. 2 days after I called off the wedding, I started searching for a lawyer. It took time to find someone I trusted, but now I have. We've begun the process. My ex and I had never even talked about custody before. We thought we'd always be together, but now that it's over, I'm not leaving anything to chance. Because while my ex may not fight me, his parents might. They're conservative, controlling, traditional. They'd never accept their grandkids being raised without their son. And I'm certain they'd use every resource to challenge me. I have to be prepared. The last time I spoke to my ex was about 3 days ago. He hasn't checked on me or the kids since. And to me, that says everything. Whatever he said about making things work, it was empty. If he meant it, he'd have followed through. He hasn't. So, I know now, without a doubt, I'm doing the right thing. This is the end of us. There's no trust left to rebuild. And I won't be with a man who didn't want me in the first place. All I want now is peace. And for my children to grow up in a home that's honest, safe, and filled with real love. Update 2. I finally did it. I told my ex I wasn't getting back together with him. And I also gave him a heads up. I'm filing for full custody. Naively, I thought he'd understand. After all, he had made it very clear, even just a week ago, that he wasn't ready for kids or marriage or any of this. I thought maybe he'd even be relieved, that he'd thank me for not pushing him further. But instead, he exploded. He started arguing, saying I was being cruel, that I couldn't do this to him, that sure I could break up with him, but I had no right to take his kids away. Now, under different circumstances, that kind of reaction might have made sense. If we had a healthy, loving relationship, I might have even agreed. But this man, he didn't want these kids in the first place. He wasn't ready to be a dad a week ago, and now, suddenly he's fighting for custody. It felt off, really off. We met at a restaurant to talk, and when he started making a scene, I was mortified. People were watching, whispering. I tried to calm him down. I explained everything gently. I reminded him of what he said, about not being ready. I told him I was just trying to make life easier for all of us. I'd raise the kids, like I always wanted. He'd be free, no marriage, no obligations, no pressure. That's what he said he wanted, right? But he kept insisting, I'm ready now, I've changed. No, he hadn't. I knew something wasn't right, so I asked him, point blank, are your parents behind this? He hesitated. Then he confessed. Yes, after the wedding was called off, and he told them what had happened, they demanded he fix things. They said they'd accepted that marriage was off the table, but custody, that was still in play. They told him if he lost custody of their grandkids, they'd cut him off, financially and legally, again. So he was here, once more, not fighting for love or for fatherhood, but for inheritance. He admitted it. He was trying to make it right, not because he cared, but because his parents were threatening him again. I was done. He begged, pleaded, told me to agree to joint custody, said he'd needed it, offered to split his inheritance with me if I agreed. I felt sick. This man didn't want me. He didn't want our children. He wanted to keep his parents' money. I walked out of that restaurant in silence, disgusted. Once again, I saw the truth. He didn't have a spine. He never had. It's been a few days since that disaster at the restaurant, and I've done what I should have done long ago. I blocked him, again, everywhere. No more calls, no more messages, no more back and forth. I'm done. The last thing he texted me, a desperate attempt to bargain. He said, let's just do joint custody. I'll split my inheritance with you when my parents pass away. I didn't even respond. Can you believe that? After everything, after all the lies, the manipulation, the cowardice, he was still trying to bribe me. Not because he loved his kids, not because he wanted to be a father, but because he was still trying to keep his place in that precious will. Pathetic. This is what I get for falling in love with a spoiled brat. A man raised by money, not morals. A man who couldn't make a single decision without checking if his parents approved. And me, I'm a self-made woman. I fought for everything I have. My parents weren't rich, but they gave me what they could, and I used it. I studied hard, earned scholarships, worked part-time jobs, built a life for myself without anyone handing it to me. And yet, I still thought this man had changed, that once he became a father, he'd grow up. That love would change him. I was wrong. He's just a really good actor. He fooled me for 3 whole years. But now, I see him for who he truly is. And I don't want him anywhere near my children, because no father is better than a father who doesn't even want to be one. I meant it when I said I didn't want child support. I don't want him tied to my children in any way. They deserve better than a man who only shows up when inheritance is on the line. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. I did the right thing. I'll raise these boys on my own. I'll give them love. I'll give them stability. And I'll give them the truth. Maybe one day he'll grow a backbone. Maybe one day he'll regret it, but it won't matter, because we'll already be long gone. And I'll keep praying that instead of dragging me into court, he finally does the only selfless thing he's ever done: give up his parental rights. Update 3. Hey there. It's been a while, but I finally have some good news to share. Things are better, not perfect, not easy, but better. The twins and I have moved into a smaller apartment, but it's ours. Unlike the house I used to share with my ex, this place feels like home. Cozy, quiet, safe. And the best part? It's close to my parents, just a short drive away, which means they can visit often. They've been helping with the kids too, doing everything they can to support me. I also hired a full-time nanny, because let's be real, I can't stop working, and I'm lucky I can afford that right now. I know how privileged I am to have parents who stepped up like this. They didn't sign up for this, but they've shown up anyway, and I'll never stop being grateful for that. Now, for the part I know many of you were waiting for, he signed away his parental rights. Yep, it's done. I don't know what changed or what finally got through to him, but I suspect he finally stood up to his parents. Or maybe they just gave up. A friend told me he moved out of his childhood home, so I'm guessing maybe, just maybe, he made a real choice for once in his life. He did message me one last time. He apologized again, said he wanted to offer me money as compensation, but I said no. I know some of you might think that's foolish, that I should have taken it, but I didn't want a cent from him. I wasn't joking when I said I didn't want him in our lives. Not emotionally, not legally, not financially. I've made peace with that. I forgave him, but that doesn't mean I'll ever accept anything more from him. All I want now is peace, and I have it. I don't cry over him anymore. I don't wonder what if. I don't fantasize about apologies or closure, because I already have closure. It's the sound of my babies giggling, the quiet of my new apartment at night, the strength I feel when I wake up every morning and keep going. This chapter is closed. I'm focused on being the best mother I can be, and that's all that matters now. We're okay, we're healing, and we're free.